Hi there, my name is Kay Moon, and I'm a twin flame channel and Western astrologer. And this is a video about the full moon in Capricorn occurring on June 24th, 2021 at 2:39 p.m. If you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States, please check a time zone converter for your local time. This video is for the Twin Soul and Divine Counterpart Collective. However, you may find it helpful to understand the full context of this full moon by listening to the Lightworker Energy Update video. This full moon occurs here at 3 degrees of Capricorn, conjunct an energy we call fullness. Fullness is the energy of collateral damage and where we find ourselves just in the wrong place at the wrong time as we're dealing with other people's issues and stuff. So I explain this in great detail in the Lightworker Energy Update, so I'm not going to go over it much here, but if you'd like to listen to the introduction to that, it would give you a better understanding of why this energy is so important at this time, because what's happening is it's illuminating some places where we need to make really big changes in our lives, either in the world of relationship or connection, or in the world of who we are and how we're being, because of the way this energy is having a pretty direct conversation with the shaman's asteroid and the partnership sign. There is something about lessons that we've learned about letting ourselves be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm going to get into the counterparts energy now. But, like I said, I really encourage you to take a listen to that there, because in that introduction, I cover this energy. I cover the energy of Mercury direct and Saturn retrograde. I also cover what Jupiter retrograde kind of means on the whole. So if you're curious about that and how to navigate the change in energy, because I'm sure you've probably felt the shift, the Lightworker Energy Update will give you those details. Let's dive into the divine counterpart I read as the divine feminine. That's Juno here. She's sitting here with the South Node and she is moving retrograde. She stops her retrograde motion in August and begins to move direct. She's been retrograde since April. I did provide a video about the Juno retrograde and what to expect during this particular Juno retrograde. This Juno retrograde comes with a lot of illumination. And this particular moment in time, the illumination is going to be very, very strong for many divine feminine energies. Now, as we know, we all have both feminine and masculine energy. Mercury here has an energy of opposing her with the North Node, but that creates a very interesting dynamic. Because when partnership asteroid is moving retrograde, she's not providing outward facing partnership energy. She's providing inward facing partnership energy. And the conversation in question becomes, how do we become better partners to ourselves? She's also speaking with South Node. South Node represents our lessons from past lives, but also our strengths that we walked into this lifetime with. Additionally, South Node energy has a lot to do with the retrieval of and resolution of issues that arose in a past life, but in this lifetime are, kind of up for grabs in terms of completion. Now, because partnership asteroid is speaking to the South Node in this way, the South Node can very much act like a portal. She's going to cross over it once, which she already did. She's crossing over it now a second time, and then she'll cross over a third time when she moves direct. Anytime you have a major planetary player crossing over the South Node, it's very common that a person can walk into your life or resurface with that particular planet's energy. Because this is the partnership asteroid, for many, this will represent a return of divine feminine energy into your life. So either a return of your own divine feminine energy, reclaiming that energy for yourself, exploring your own divine femininity, bringing pieces of your divine femininity from past lives online in this lifetime, and doing it in a way that allows you to be quite conscious now that Mercury has crossed over the North Node again and provided its energy of consciousness, communication, awareness. So you could be exploring ways to amplify your divine feminine energy at this time, and also really recognizing ways that there could be places in your conscious mind and ways that you operate in your conscious mind that are just at odds with your divine feminine energy. Again, divine feminine energy really represents creativity, receptivity, flexibility, nurturing, that energy of motherly kind of protection, but also the sensual function of femininity as well. So you may be finding that there are just ways that, maybe you've structured your life, or maybe ways that you've been communicating or thinking about yourself that don't really allow for divine feminine flow. And this is a moment in time where you might feel very called to bring that flow back into your world. Taking a class that nurtures that creativity is one of many things, but because Gemini and Sag, where these two planetary energies sit, is all about the classroom, it's also about travels and learning things in your travels. Taking a class about divine feminine energy or about feminine energy would be amazing. Was it last year? No, it wasn't last year. It was the year prior. I interviewed a woman named Allison Armstrong on the channel. In Allison's interview, we talked about seeing the heart of the divine masculine energy and understanding how masculine and feminine energy, the polarities are different, and there's a reason for that. They're not meant to be the same. And so her classes on divine feminine energy or on feminine energy and understanding women might be a beautiful place to begin. Or you can even do her understanding men class, because that'll help you really understand how to from a behavioral standpoint, interact with your divine masculine counterpart or in yourself in a way that also really honors your own divine feminine energy. One of the challenges I see most often inside of my sessions with clients is divine feminines who claim to be in the polaric dynamic of feminine energy, operating their connection with their masculine muscles as opposed to from their feminine energy. And so if you're looking for a way to rebalance those, classes with Allison Armstrong, whether it's understanding men or understanding women, are a phenomenal way to come to greater clarity about how to bring the feminine energy back into your dynamic, both in your life, but also inside of your connection. There's only so much I can say about it here because I'm certainly not a teacher or an expert in that arena, but her work, bar none, has made such a huge difference in the relationship I've had with all of the men in my life, my father, my brother, my counterpart, jobs where I've worked with more men than women. So I can't say enough good things about it. And because this is a classroom transit, Gemini and Sag are classroom energies, educational energies, and here's where the divine feminine sits. Taking classes at this time to cultivate your feminine energy will go a long way to reclaiming it and putting it in its rightful place in your life. We also have a very interesting energy where this doing something like that could be very healing, because we have the divine feminine speaking to Chiron. And in speaking to Chiron, there is an awareness of wounds that have hit the divine feminine's energetic field, and ways in which, there's, a storyline of insufficiency or not good enough. Because this is a harmonious aspect, the trine, we get the opportunity to, for once, heal it and then turn around and assist and guide other people in the teaching aspect of Chiron with bringing their own feminine energy home as well. Likewise, we have a fun energy, which is a square to Nessus. I'm using the word fun facetiously. It's not. Nessus squaring this divine feminine energy does provide a bit of OCD with it, a bit of obsessive thinking, compulsive behaviors, compulsive thinking. And unfortunately, this Nessus energy is happening in the sign of Pisces. Pisces is affiliated with the subconscious mind. You may not even realize the places where the OCD is kind of happening. And that's one of the shadow energies with Juno, is she has this kind of compulsion around her divine masculine counterpart. You can see a lot of that play out in the mythology, where she's kind of chased him down and done everything she could to really thwart all of his liaisons with other females. And that didn't always go very well for her. And so this is one of the ways you can transcend that, is by recognizing where the wounding is, stepping into classroom work around getting consciousness around how you've been operating your own divine feminine energy, and then stepping into a much higher iteration of that frequency at this time. Now, I mentioned this in the Juno retrograde video where I talked about each of the lunations and what would be coming on. I think I've also mentioned it maybe in one or two previous newer full moon videos, but I don't think I did. I spoke at length that there would be a period of time when the union window closed, which it has. And then the twins would fall into, divine counterparts would fall into a disharmonious aspect with one another, which they are at this time. And so separation energies, especially with Juno retrograde, are very possible at this time, a dialing back of the connection energy. Where it's just kind of like, okay, I just need some time to focus on me. You're going to feel different come August when she moves forward. Guaranteed. You will definitely feel different come August. But what I'll say is that there was a period of time when Venus hit the very beginning of Cancer about a month ago, within the last month, I should say, and she was in harmonious aspect with the divine masculine energy. And many, not many, but there were several of my clients who, on a mundane level, not talking about the spiritual aspects, found out that their counterpart was getting in relationship, married, or engaged with someone else who was a soulmate. And so the invitation on the table was to work to recognize that how and why this is in divine order at this time in your connection. Well, now it's her turn, because we have Juno speaking in harmony with a soulmate of her own, Mars. So Venus and Mars are the energies that I read as the soulmates when I do this kind of work. I read Juno and Jupiter as the divine counterparts. And now here's Juno having a conversation with the polaric, mundane masculine energy, which is Mars. And so this may be a period of time where divine feminine energy starts to entertain more going on with male soulmates than with her divine counterpart, because the divine counterpart is out of harmonious flow with her. Now, what's interesting about this at this time, and we had this energy with Saturn in the mix with Venus and Jupiter, and one of the last lunations, I don't remember which one it was, that what happens and what unfolds at this time has the potential to stick. It is likewise true at this juncture for divine feminine as well, where there can be a real certainty, like, okay, yeah, what's right for me at this time is to have a deeper relationship with my soulmate on a romantic level rather than my divine counterpart on a romantic level. And commitments and marriage, etc., can also happen during this time as well. And all of that is okay. Like I said, sometimes there are appointments with other people that we've made before incarnating, that there are things we're either to give them or learn from them, that they're to give to us or learn from us, that are part of the scheduled events. So if this is one of the scheduled events for this lifetime for you, try not to despair. Life is long. There are going to be other soulmates that come in if you're willing to go with the flow and unfoldment of life, which was one of the major energies and lessons for divine feminine energy this year, as she's been in conversation with Neptune all year. One of the major lessons for the divine feminine was learning how to let go of control, let go of trying to dictate an outcome, let go of trying to force a destiny, let go of trying to manifest a path, and instead let the divine show you what the path is and get into surrender around it so that life can continue to move forward. It is a hard lesson. I'm not going to lie. I'm one of these divine feminines who has a lot of masculine energy in her chart. And I'm like, give up control. What? Spell it. I don't understand. So it's been a real, journey for me personally around relinquishing the way I think things should go and the timeline I think things should unfold on and the outcomes I want in my life so that I can step into more feminine energy around, letting the divine guide me and holding the divine's hand here. So this is a big deal. Thankfully, Juno is not talking to Neptune at this time. I mentioned this in the Juno retrograde video that things would get a little bit clearer when she's done talking to Neptune. But the minute that happens, she picks up a conversation with Chiron. And that Chiron conversation just exposes wounds. And it's like, ugh, out of the frying pan and into the fire. So the saying goes like, okay, so things weren't clear. I had to relinquish control. And now what I'm faced with as I'm relinquishing control is all the pain that I have around Chiron and Aries energy, where I'm not good enough, where my selfhood isn't where I want it to be, where who I am doesn't match up with my goals, ambitions, and dreams. And I need to make changes to facilitate my work with the divine so that I can have the outcomes I want. And so, with Chiron speaking to the divine feminine at this time, I'm just going to encourage you to be very gentle with yourself, especially if revelation is being given to you about the ways in which, the current circumstance in your connection, um, if it's something you don't want, ways in which you've also participated in its co-creation as opposed to something happening to you. I covered in depth in the Lightworker energy update video how this full moon really reveals a lot of our victimization storylines. And that's one of the things that comes up a lot when I speak to twin souls in private session, that, the concept that somehow, some way, this is happening to me, they're doing it to me, life is doing it to me, is a falsehood and a patent rejection of our divinity as ascending souls. And so we have the opportunity with this full moon to be very accountable for the pain that may have created some of our behaviors that have then created the outcomes that we're presently experiencing, both the good and the bad, the ones that we don't like, the ones we'd rather change. So this is a period of deep revelation for divine feminine energy. Like I said, as she's talking to the South Node, recognition of patterns from past lives, insight from past lives may come forward. Many may be really pulled to sleep a lot more as she speaks with the South Node, because much of that information comes through from the dream state as opposed to from a conscious state. So just keep that in mind. And if you're feeling really led to do any past life work, I highly recommend, especially this month, June and July, I highly recommend taking a look for quantum healing hypnosis technique, where you live. That's the modality developed by Dolores Cannon. I love that modality because she trains her practitioners to do a very thorough job at helping the client or patient understand what you need to get out of that particular lifetime that's relevant in this lifetime. And really thoroughly cultivating that information with you. So, this is a great time to do that as well. Okay. We're going to go ahead and pause here. If you'd like to book a session to kind of look at some of the things going on in your twin soul connection, you can do that over at K Moon Astro. The link is just below this video. In a moment, we'll talk more about what the divine masculine energy is doing at this time and how to understand that in relationship to your own divine feminine energy, because there's a lot of very interesting things going on in the fields. If you're new here and you've already heard something that resonates, I encourage you to subscribe. Welcome. I'm here every new and full moon with updates to help you understand your journey. And let's just pause and see if YouTube wants to show a video. I always appreciate when you watch the ads. It really does help me facilitate creating more of this content. And I thank you so much. All right. Very nice. Okay, so let's dig into what's going on with the divine masculine energy here at this lunation. Divine masculine, I read as Jupiter. Jupiter is speaking in harmony with this full moon via a sextile. And so there is some insight and revelation for divine masculine energies where you've been a bit of that collateral damage in certain relationships in your life, and where you're ready to stop that, where it's time to do a new thing, where you just can't continue to sit there while other people step on your toes repeatedly, or you yourself step on your own toes. That's kind of what the insight is from this full moon. It's that it's time to really take responsibility for doing our own damage control in the places where things just aren't where we need them to be. Jupiter in Pisces can also create an incredibly sleepy energy, especially when Jupiter stations. And Jupiter's station coincided with many of the eclipses. And because of this, like there was just a lot of fatigue energy in the air, and especially Jupiter stationing in Pisces to go retrograde. Pisces governs the dream world and sleep. Many have felt like just exhaustion, like a lot of physical exhaustion. It could also be emotional exhaustion, just spent and needing a lot of time to sleep. There's a beautiful channeler named Abigail Wainwright. I'll link her below this video. I also added one of her posts to the community section. She received a bit of a download about some of the changes that are going on in the divine masculine energy field and how that can create fatigue in both counterparts. She specifically said in the divine feminine, but as we all know, everybody has both energies. So you may be feeling the fatigue as well as your counterpart, because there's just a lot of shifts going on. And the reason the shifting is happening, I've mentioned this, a few different times. I mentioned it in the channeled messages for the year and at other points during the year. The reason some of this shifting is happening is because we're about to move into the next major union window as we start 2022. And the last time we had a union window of this magnitude was about 2014-15. And this union windows of the magnitude we're about to walk into don't happen very often. They're rarer. They only happen like once every 6 to 8 years when Juno and Jupiter come into conjunction together, when they meet up at the same spot in the sky. When that happens, you find that life really pushes the two divine counterparts together in incredibly uncanny ways. This is where two people who are living in two completely different countries suddenly find themselves on vacation in the same country, in the same hotel at the same time. This is when two people who have walked away from the connection fully find themselves, working together, one as client, one as practitioner or service provider, like, lawyer and client. The universe has a way of bringing things that need to be brought together back together. And so, a type of window that will facilitate that is coming. The exact date will be, I think it's January 23rd, 2023. However, when the conjunctions of Juno and Jupiter happen in the sky, they can be felt for 1 year on either side. And you can see, I mean, I've seen a lot of twins meet their counterpart during that time. So back in the one in 2015, I saw, when I read now, that a lot of people met their counterpart in 2014 and 15. And it's not to say that other times of meet aren't significant. They are. However, there just seems to be cataclysmic events that forces people together at these conjunction union windows more so than any other. Like I said, they're only every 6 to 8 years. So I mentioned this at the very beginning of the year in the channeled messages, that there are many of you this year, and this is the point during the year where you will be, so to speak, released from a long inactive twin connection, so that when this union window hits as we open 2022, because you'll start to feel it then, and it'll just pulse into higher frequency until 2023. When this union window opens, there are some who are going to be prepared to be pair bonded with another twin. I know a lot of people don't like to hear about that. They don't want to talk about that. Whatever. It was the channeled message I got. I am just the messenger, people. So, if this is one of the things occurring for you at this time, and you've really kind of been present and patient with your journey with a counterpart who has, really resisted the connection completely for years and years and years, and there's been no communication for years and years and years. This is a period of time where you may find that you move into a state of, I don't know if you know the tarot, but like a Four of Swords energy, or a star type of energy, or temperance kind of energy, so that you get this opportunity to reset, renew, and rest before we hit this next union window, which will provide an opportunity to recombine in twin energy that's very active again. And so if this is what's happening to you or happening in your world, I offer you this so that you understand not all hope is lost. Your dedication hasn't fallen on, deaf God eyes, or deaf God ears, I should say, or blind eyes. If you've already said to yourself and said to the divine, look, it is a connection of this caliber or nothing, trust that divine has heard you. And as we move into 2022 and 2023, you better believe it's coming. Union is coming for you if you have claimed it. And it's a matter of really preparing yourself to be open to it in the way that the universe wants to provide it, not in the way that you would dictate it. And that's the energy of this divine feminine surrender energy with Neptune. Now back to Jupiter. I want to make sure that I shared that piece of information. So back to Jupiter, the divine masculine energy here. We've got a sextile to the full moon, a trine to the sun, which gives us a lot of luck and expansion energy. We've got a square here to Lilith, a sextile to Earth. Earth is in there. Earth is our manifestation planet. It's a free will zone. And then we have Pholus, right? And so when you put all of this together inside the divine masculine energetic fields at this time, there's an energy of really recognizing the ways in which that you may have some needs and some needs that may have gone unmet, and that you're just willing to do what it takes to get them met. You're not willing to settle for anything less. You're not willing to have anything less than those needs being met. And so, I love Lilith. Her energy is always so palpable. It's such a potent energy because she really demands, that things kind of go her way. Where they don't go her way, she checks out. She's like, no, that's not it. That's not what I ordered. I'm leaving. I'm going to another restaurant that can deliver what I asked for. She can be a bit of that kind of energy, kind of my way or the highway. But inside of her signature is also deep rejection. And so Lilith speaking to Jupiter in this way may have a lot of the divine masculine energies becoming very consciously aware of patterns of deep rejection and the ways in which they have either set themselves up for it, in certain ways, or like participated in it, like, participated in their own self rejection, and that manifested then on the outside as others rejecting them. So it's a tricky energy because on the one hand, you can feel the woundedness, you can feel the palpable rejection and want and have a desire to move away from it. Like, no, I'm not dealing with this. If you're rejecting me, then I'm rejecting you. I'm out of here. And that energy can be very present in divine connections if there's been a lot of, manipulation and cat and mouse and, that kind of more, I don't want to say petty, but that's basically what I'm talking about, like petty behaviors rather than just being honest, forthright, and vulnerable. The Jupiter talking to Lilith energy can have some of that pettiness really show up unchecked unless divine masculine energy is using the retrograde to facilitate inner evaluation of self. Now, what's interesting about this is whether you want to or not during this particular full moon, revelation about why you are the way you are, why we are the way we are, is going to come up, right? This full moon with Pholus sitting here really has the lights on around where those patterns of rejection may have come from, or ways in which we misinterpreted other people's issues as being some kind of statement or rejection to us, right? Sometimes people aren't rejecting us. Sometimes people just have issues. It's not even about us. They're just, operating their own, messed up patterns in their own world, their own unhealed stuff. And some of that just kind of gets on us, like some of the mud just gets flicked on us. And it was never about them rejecting us. It was always just about them being in their own pain. And so this full moon has the capacity to really illuminate that inside of our own divine masculine energy fields. Like, okay, I see. I need to just back it up, back it up, back it up, back up out of you dealing with your mess. I see that's your issue. I don't need to participate in it anymore. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot. Peace. I'm out. Okay, so there can be a bit of that here. And again, if you're in a dynamic where you're finding that, the divine masculine energy in your counterpart connection is dialing back, because now both counterparts are in retrograde motion, not necessarily giving outwardly, but instead needing to give inwardly. One of the invitations on the table is to understand the necessity of time alone for integration, time alone for deeper understanding. And to not really catastrophize this, but to accept it as part of the way intensity works. We can't stay on high intensity level 10 at all times. Sometimes we got to come back, take a breather at level 4 or 5. So that's a bit of the invitation here. If you know that you found something here that resonates for you, I really invite you to book a session, especially while the retrograde is unfolding for Jupiter and Juno. If you want to look more deeply, and to subscribe if you're new here, if you want to get updates like these to better understand what may be going on in your connection, feel free to subscribe. I'd love to have you. Um, and yeah, that's it. Until our next lunation, take great care and bye for now.